Kickoff for the 2025 college football season is just around the corner. That means football time down in Gainesville once again as the Florida Gators get ready to embark on another season. Helping us break it all down, preview the upcoming 2025 season, good friend of mine, good friend of the show, Nick De La Torre of Florida Victorious, does a fantastic job in all that he does for the Gators. Nick, great to see you, my friend. Great to chat with you. It was a fun baseball season for you and I both, but now it's time for toe to meet leather, my man. What's going on?
Yeah. Just wrapped up day 3 at football. It is hot, as you can imagine, in Gainesville. It certainly feels like summer, despite it being fall camp. Certainly feels like summer.
Yeah, certainly you use the term fall very loosely down in the great state of Florida at this time of year because these are more the dog days of August, no doubt. So kudos to you for braving it. But, Nick, I want to dive into this. Before we talk the 2025 season, I want to briefly touch on how we got here and what happened in 2024 because I think it is important to set the scene because isn't it interesting, Nick? This time last year, we all felt like we knew, right? Billy Napier was a dead man walking. The schedule they had last year was the toughest schedule in all of college football. All the Gators do in 2024, by the way, go 8-5, 4-4 in conference play. Obviously, it gets off to a rocky start. You didn't expect your quarterback to go down essentially halfway through the year. DJ Lagway takes over. You catch a spark, and it's well documented what you did in that final stretch run, end of the season, beating LSU, beating Ole Miss, beating Florida State, and you beat Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl. Just, Nick, talk about the 2024 season. How do you kind of compartmentalize it and what really felt like a wacky year where, again, I was there for week 1. The sentiment was Billy Napier is finished. After the A&M game, it felt like it was only a matter of time. And here we sit. Billy Napier is still the head coach, and there's high expectations for the Gators.
Yeah, it was a weird roller coaster because after the way the Miami game went, it didn't matter what you did against Samford. And, of course, it was great to see DJ Lagway break all these freshman passing records against Samford, but it's still Samford. And then the score was probably a lot closer. The final score was a lot closer than the game was against Texas A&M. And then you weren't going to calm anyone down at Mississippi State. You beat UCF. I think if we go back and watch that Tennessee game, which I haven't probably since, the season ended again, that was a closer one. That was obviously overtime on the road. That would have been a huge win for them. But then you beat Kentucky, and that was probably the most complete game I've seen from Florida in the Billy Napier era. That was, I think, 48-20 off the top of my head. But it was just like a complete 60 minutes of football from the guys. And Georgia happens. DJ gets hurt. You have to kind of throw Aiden Warner in. And then DJ's trying to come back. You go to Texas, who was, I think, number 1 in the country at the time. And you have Aiden Warner, who was, I think, 4th string win fall camp. This time last year was 4th string. And through the injuries and beating a guy out is now the starting quarterback on the road to Texas. I think the real big turning point is beating LSU at home. And then you look at Ole Miss and you see a win on the schedule, but it's really that Ole Miss team was playing for a playoff when they came to Gainesville. If they won against Florida and then they won the Egg Bowl, they were a playoff team, and Florida is able to beat them. I think the defense won that day, really. I think Bryce Thornton had 2 picks. So a huge 2-game stretch there. And then FSU stunk last year. But going on it doesn't matter if FSU stinks. It always feels good beating FSU. And then that Tulane game, both teams were without a ton of guys. But as the list is growing and I'm getting the list and I'm like, man, that's like the whole D line, half the offensive line not playing. I was like, man, don't kill the momentum. It was really good for Florida, especially when you consider the amount of guys that they bring back. Yes, you've lost some guys, but you get Tyreek Sapp, George Gums, Jake Slaughter, Austin Barber. The list kind of goes on. I think Florida brings back 4,500 snaps on the offensive line. It's just going to be a veteran team. You've salt bayed a little bit of youth and experience, but it's a really veteran team. And I think that if you go and look at the East-West Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, when they start putting out these lists, there's going to be a ton of Gators on it because it is a veteran team.
those of you that had Salt Bay on your bingo card as a reference in this convo, you can mark that off, by the way. Thank you for that, Nick.
You never know what you're going to get.
You never know. That's why I bring you on. I want to talk Billy Napier really quickly, Nick. 4th season, obviously, at the helm. Again, this time last year, it felt like a certainty what was going to happen, and there was going to be a new coach, and obviously that's not where we sit. You give Billy Napier a lot of kudos for what he did last year, helping lead that team. And I ask everybody this, I bring on, we're doing these team previews because I just think it's fascinating, and you've got as good a pulse on the fan base, good a feel on the pulse of the fan base as anybody that covers the Gators. What's the overall vibe right now amongst the fan base when it comes to Billy Napier? And is it different than maybe what those behind closed doors have with Billy? Because I'm sure it's, obviously there's a lot of support, but I'm sure it's still a lot of mixed emotions and mixed feelings. And obviously you've got different pockets of the fan base that, maybe take things to the extreme or whatever. I mean, every fan base has it, but the overall scope of things, what's the overall vibe around Billy Napier right now in Gainesville?
There's a lot of cautious now with DJ's health. There's a lot of cautious optimism. Like, this is a team, I think, because of what you have at quarterback when DJ's healthy, because of the guys that you bring back, the Saps, the Barbers, the Slaughters, the running back room is crazy deep. There's cautious optimism. The last 2 off seasons, I think the talk has been a lot of, oh, the schedule's so hard. Look at this schedule. It's toughest in the country. And now there's kind of like, Florida has, like, these guys have to come play the Gators as well. When I look at the schedule, though, like, we'll know who Florida is by, October 12th or the end of, late night October 11th, because you get to start with LIU, South Florida, but it's at LSU, at Miami, Texas, at Texas A&M. And that stretch of 4 games right there, I think we'll really know who the Gators are. At the back end of the schedule, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State, even if you stumble a little bit early, you could have a strong finish. So to me, it'll be interesting to see how does Florida handle that beginning stretch. But with DJ Lagway's health, I think if DJ Lagway, and I said this last year, anytime DJ Lagway's playing, that the Florida Gators will have a chance that Saturday.
Let's move into that, talk this 2025 Gator squad, Nick, and I promise I won't just pepper you with questions about DJ Lagway's health, because I'm sure your phone has been blowing up over the last few weeks, certainly when some of the news came out, I believe, a few days ago. But certainly DJ Lagway back at QB1. I mean, that's the big headliner on the offense. His health is going to be something we follow on a weekly basis, because I feel most people believe that's probably the only thing that could hold him back. He's considered one of the best quarterbacks in the league returning. But in the backfield, he's going to have a ton of help. Jaden Ball, Jacoby Jackson, they man the running back room. There's depth in that room. Trey Wilson is back as an explosive playmaker on the outside. Dallas Wilson is a kid, had a big spring game. He's a freshman catching tons of buzz, who should have an immediate impact. Michael Sturdivant's back, Aiden Mizell, Khalil Jackson, a few others that return at the wide receiver position. And then you got the offensive line. Like you mentioned, Nick, 4 starters are back. Really probably should be the strength of the offense. You got some big-time players back on that offensive line, a couple preseason all-SEC guys, and you get Hayden Hansen back at tight end as well. I say all that, Nick, when you look at this 2025 offense, what are you expecting, and how much of it just simply hinges on the health of DJ Lagway?
Yeah, I think a lot of it hinges on that, but you've got, like I said, a veteran offensive line who I think, obviously for good reason. We talk a lot about DJ. I think he showed an uncanny accuracy on deep passes last year. He can throw the intermediate, he can throw the short, but he really kind of opens your eyes when he's dropping, 40-yard, 50, 60-yard passes into a trash can. Just almost strange how accurate he is on deep passes. And you've got the speed to do that now. Florida's got a bunch of guys running, GPS 23 miles an hour. J. Mike Sturdivant from UCLA looks good, dude. Trey Wilson looks to me, to my eye, to be fully healthy, coming off of the surgery that ended his season last year. And then you've got Nashawn Montgomery, Vernell Brown III, Dallas Wilson, Tank Hawkins still on the roster. You've got a lot of speed and space outside. You return Hayden Hansen, and then that running back room is deep. Trent Webb, who's coming back from injury. He's a little modified right now. Billy Napier told us that. But behind him is Duke Clark and Chad Gasper, and you've got a bunch of guys in that running back room, which is led by Jacoby Jackson and Jaden Ball, of course. But it's a team who, if they wanted to, could run the ball 35, 40 times a game and kind of just lean on that and try to bully guys on the ground. A healthy DJ makes that even more possible because you have a quarterback who has the ability and creates a threat to run, but you also can't sink another guy into the box because he'll beat you over the top. So that's the kind of thing when I look at when I think of Florida's offense. Healthy DJ Lagway doesn't let you cheat against a run against a team I think can and should be able to run the ball really effectively.
Nick, I said I wouldn't ask you, but I have to. How much of the DJ Lagway health stuff is kind of blown out of proportion? I mean, I read a report yesterday. He's already out of the boot, moving around. Like, I think people got that report, obviously, and, you know, he was day-to-day, and the sky is falling. People are claiming he's injury-prone, and, like, how much of it, in your mind, is just completely blown out of proportion? Or is it something that's, like, a real concern? Like, when you're looking at this Gators team, hey, one of the top question marks is, can he stay healthy on a weekly basis?
It's going to be everyone's question mark, especially with the transfer portal the way it is. There aren't many teams that have like super quality depth at quarterback. I think the calf injury that just happened that had him in the boot is unfortunate, but like it's not something that's tied to him not throwing in the spring. I think that's where fans are getting worried, is that he didn't do anything in the spring and now he's not doing anything in the beginning of fall camp. It's not expected to be serious. I've seen him not in a boot. I actually never saw him in the boot, you know, despite how much I'm on campus. But, you know, it's something that I think if any team in the country had quarterback one not full go at practice 1, 2, 3 of fall camp, there's some concern. But Florida expects to get him back. There's no thought right now that he'll be out long term because of this.
Nick, let's move to the defensive side of the football, because again, this should be, I think, a strength for Florida when you look at some of the headliners that are coming back and that are back for the season, led by Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp up front, two of the best in the SEC when it comes to harassing the quarterback and wreaking havoc on the defensive line. You have Pup Howard back as a leader at linebacker. Also, Miles Graham is a guy they look to pop and make a big splash. Jordan Castell, Bryce Thornton back in the secondary. Devin Moses is a guy at corner, maybe could be a breakout player. Nick, talk to me about this defense. I feel like it gets a little bit overshadowed because, again, it's DJ Lagway is kind of the face of the franchise, but should be a strength yet again for Florida. This one should be fun to watch.
Yeah, it starts up front, and I think Florida might be a little bit thin at defensive tackle. Obviously, you lost Stephon Shivers and DeAndre Robinson, but you bring back Caleb Banks, and you get Jamari Lyons back with a season-ending injury last year. And there's some guys, younger guys, Joseph Mbashu, who the staff really, really likes. You get Brandon Bett from Baylor. So they've got some depth there. But when I look at the edge room, defensive end, edge rushers, like it looks like a Bama or a Georgia, where it doesn't matter who's in. You're kind of three deep at all of these spots. You get George Gums back, who really kind of came on towards the end of last year. Tyreek Sapp. This is a guy who played stand-up linebacker in high school, and he has a couple of nose tackles reps during his career. Kind of just plays wherever they needed him to. Selfless guy. He's played nose tackle. He's played defensive tackle. They've got him at end now, and you can go look at the PFF grades. PFF loves Tyreek Sapp. And those two guys, Gums and Sapp, have really stepped up as vocal leaders. They lead both by their voice, but by their example. These guys are going hard in practice. Sometimes you get to be a senior and it's like, listen, fall camp, it's hot. Give me a couple plays off. Or I'll take a rep in this and then I'm going to get some water. But not those guys. At linebacker, you've got Pup Howard, Miles Graham, Jaden Robinson. They're really deep there. And then at cornerback, I think Dijon Johnson, Cormani McClain, and Devin Moore. If Devin Moore can stay healthy, he's a top 3 round pick in the NFL draft this year. He's just that kind of guy. He's 6'2", maybe 6'3", long, lean, can run. Whenever we ask guys who's on the 4x1 team, Devin Moore comes up as a guy, and Florida's got some track speed, and Devin Moore gets mentioned there. This defense can be really good. They're deep in some areas they need to be deep, but I think they're also really talented on the outside, and then they have a ton of depth. They should be able to get after the pass.
Nick, of note, I appreciate you correcting me. I don't know why I typed Moses, by the way, in my notes, but it is Devin Moore, by the way. I apologize for that. Let's talk a little special teams. Nick, I know this is a facet of the game gets overlooked by essentially everyone, but as we know in the SEC, the margins are razor thin, and it can be the difference between winning and losing a game. And certainly the Gators are in good hands, especially at kicker, because Trey Smack is back at that spot. You pick up Tommy Duman from Michigan to take over the punting duties. Guys like Jaden Ball, Vernell Brown, options at returner. I'm sure there's plenty others as well. Maybe a Dallas Wilson, Trey Wilson. Just talk about special teams for Florida. What are you expecting? Do you expect it to be, no pun intended, special this year?
It's always special. Punters are people too. That's the big one. Jeremy Crawshaw was so good, and they've been around for so long that you kind of were like, how do you replace him? I've made a joke of it, but like specialists having a good special teams can make a difference. I remember when Florida had Will Muschamp and like the offense wasn't good, and it was such a big thing for the offense that Johnny Townsend before Tommy, that Johnny was able to flip the field. Tommy Doman has been able to step right in, and he'll be able to help Florida there. You get a senior back in Trey Smack, Rocco Underwood. It was the long snapper of the year last year nationally. That operation is solid. And Florida got a kicker and a punter and a long snapper in the last recruiting cycle. So you start building for the future there. The big thing is to me is that Joe Houston, Chris Couch has moved on. He's at Houston. Chris Couch is at the University of Houston, and Joe Houston is who was in his first year last year, has taken over everything there. And it's really just the bugaboo stuff that's happened of 12 men on the field, 10 men on the field, that kind of stuff. I think the operation standpoint has been taken care of. And you're getting guys, Joe Houston mentioned on Tuesday at Media Day, they played over 70 guys on special teams. You're getting a lot of starters who are volunteering or being asked to play special teams. It's not, oh, no, I'm the starting linebacker. I'm not going to do that. Like George Gums is playing on special teams. Tyreek Sapp is playing on special teams. There's a pride back in playing on special teams that, I don't know that we've really had that since Urban Meyer was here. And Urban Meyer used to let the specialists eat first when the team got together. So Florida's special teams should be good. It'll be interesting. I had to pull up this list for you because there was a long list of guys who were returning punts. I think there was 12 of them. I'm looking for it right now. But I think it'll be whittled down to a couple other guys. So the list that I think we'll see at punt returner is Trey Wilson, Tank Hawkins, two of the fastest guys on the team, VB3, Nashawn Montgomery, and then Jaden Baugh, DeBron Hampton, and Jackson Wade. It's interesting because some fans don't like that Jaden Baugh's name shows up on this list. It's like, hey, don't put RB1 there. But there's a lot of guys. It's still fall camp. It'll kind of whittle down. You'll get like 6 guys back there, in a regular depth chart as well. But those freshmen, Nashawn Montgomery and VB3, I'd love to see them returning punts. I think they've been really, really good.
So as we look at this 2025 season, Nick, for what it's worth, it doesn't mean as much as it used to with the portal era, but 13 starters are back for the Gators, 8 on offense, 5 on defense. Like you said, there's a ton of returning experience, which, again, I still think matters in this day and age of college football. You take a look at the 2025 schedule. You talked about it a little bit earlier. Very front-loaded, right? You open up with LIU, no big deal. You get USF at home in week 2. Then you get going in SEC play in a big way. Week 3, you're at LSU at night. We all know about the challenge of winning at Death Valley. You're at Miami in week number 4. Certainly, that's going to be a big revenge spot for the Gators after last year. After the bye week, you get Texas at home. Other road trips include at A&M, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss. Big home matchups. Well, not a home matchup. Jacksonville. You take on the Georgia Bulldogs, obviously, in the cocktail party. You get Tennessee and Florida State at home late to close it out. everybody talked about the schedule last year, Nick. That's not quite as much of a lead storyline this year, but when you look at it, I mean, it's still difficult. Just your thoughts on how it sets up for a big year for the Gators.
You've got to start strong. Like it's nice for Billy. It's got to be nice to not have, his first 3 years was Utah, Miami. It's nice to be able to ease into the season a little bit with LIU, South Florida. But yeah, it's almost like 2 games, kind of warm up, figure things out. But then LSU is tough. They've got a good team. They start the year with Clemson. Is that right?
LSU starts with Clemson at Clemson. Yep.
Yeah. So they start with a road game. Yep. If they win that game, I think you get 2-2-0 teams. That might be a college game day because that's going to be a night game already listed at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 local. At Miami will be a huge game. There's a lot of guys on the roster now who were on the team last year. So that'll be a big game. It'll probably be a 50-50 split, if I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of Gator fans down in Miami, and Miami doesn't really pack out that stadium. I'm sure it'll be sold out. But tell me what the colors look like in the stands in terms of what teams' colors have more or less in the stands. So then you get Texas. That'll be Arch versus DJ. I'm sure that'll be the billing. If both of those teams are undefeated, I think Texas has Ohio State. If Florida and Texas are undefeated, that might be a college game day in Gainesville. And then at A&M is a place where, I mean, Georgia's never been. I think this will be Florida's 5th trip there since 2012. I don't know why they keep sending the Gators to College Station, but that's a stretch right there where if you make that, if you go into that October 18th game against Mississippi State with only 2 losses, Florida's looking really, really good. The rest of the way with Mississippi State, Georgia, at Kentucky, Ole Miss, like a 9-3 Florida with this schedule, I think is a playoff team.
And I think certainly you can vouch for that at-large bid, no doubt. I mean, heck, 9-3, maybe even if it works out the right way, could get you in Atlanta, believe it or not. In closing, Nick, I do want to ask you simply that because, again, Billy Napier essentially saves his job last year. There's a lot of high vibes for good reason. I think this is a really talented roster. There's a lot of mixed feelings on the Gators, though. When I was at SEC Media Days, you got some people that are obviously buying stock, and then you got some people talking about Florida's maybe the most overrated team in the conference, which I just thought was really interesting and didn't expect to hear that. But simply put, Nick, your overall thoughts on this team this season, college football playoff expectations, is that where we're at now for Florida? And what does Billy have to do to keep himself off of that hot seat? Because the more Florida people I talk to, the more I realize what you did last year doesn't really matter that much anymore. You got to repeat it, if not exceed it this season.
Yeah, I think there's a segment there, every fan base. There's a segment of every fan base that if you don't win your conference and a national championship, fire the coach, move on. I think for me personally, 9 wins is more than last year. Before we'll be more than last year. I think even with this schedule, 8-4 is a good year. The mentality that this team has is not that. They're not thinking that we're an 8-win team. They're thinking playoffs. When I look at the schedule and if DJ's healthy, I think, like I said, when DJ Lagway is healthy, the Gators have a chance to win every single game. But we've already mentioned, like, defense, I think, is going to be better. This is the best roster that Billy Napier has had in 4 years at Florida. The defense, I think, is going to be really, really good. They're strong up front, and I think strong outside as well. You bring back Jordan Castelli and Bryce Thornton, who I hadn't even mentioned either of them at safety. And then offensively, it's a team that can really, really run the ball with a ton of talented skill makers. And if you have a quarterback who can get them the ball, Florida just has a bunch of ways to beat you. I think their margin of error has been razor thin the past 3 years. I think that margin is a little bit bigger this year. And we'll see. There's a lot of change at quarterback across the SEC. And a lot of maybe the name brands that we've become used to, maybe they are taking a step back and we just haven't looked at it or projected it that way yet.
Going to be a fun season down in Gainesville, Nick. I'll be pumped to see you at some point back at the Swamp. Nick De La Torre of Florida Victorious does a fantastic job. Everything he does with the Gators. Nick, a lot of Gators fans watching this. Obviously, let folks know where they can check you out, where they can check out Florida Victorious and how they can support Florida Gators.
Yeah, you can follow me at De La Torre. You can follow us at FL_Victorious. Join the only fan site that's helping the Gators win, and we're the only fan site that's out at practice every day. So I'm dropping practice notes from what I get to see, fighting off heat stroke to bring you the practice notes.
Nick, you're the man. I appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, looking forward to seeing you down in Gainesville this season, my friend.